Hi, I'm Lauren Longworth. For the past 6 years, I have served as the jury manager for Kids First. I manage our endorsement and film festival programs and provide media literacy training to all of our adult volunteer jurors. If you have questions or need to reach me, you can use the online contact form on our website at www.kidsfirst.org.
Welcome to the Kids First Film Critics Search webinar, How to Read a Film. Here we will briefly discuss some of the more important messages to watch for when reviewing films. We will ask you to look deeper and to consider these important media literacy concepts in your review. Joining me today is Brianna Hope Beaton, one of the 2012 Kids First Film Critics. When people make films, they are telling a story. But the story is not just about these characters and what they did. The story goes deeper. It often tells us something about ourselves, others, or life in general. A good children's film will have a positive and uplifting message. It will teach you to stand up for what you believe in, that friends stick together, that if you persevere it will pay off. And this is why the bad guy rarely wins in a good kid's film. Or maybe the bad guy transforms, so everyone wins. When you discuss what happens in a story, you need to keep your eye out for this deeper message. Can any of you tell me the last film that you saw and what the deeper message was?
This is Brianna.
Hi, Brianna.
Um, one of the films I saw, I can't remember quite the last one,
That's okay.
but one of the films I saw was Newsies. I think it's like the first one I saw, so it's really special. But the deeper message, like there was an outer message, was to stand up for what you believe in, but I think the deeper message that I found was that, and that if you do stand up for what you believe in, like there's things that can accomplish from that if you do stand up for what you want, you can get it, or you can learn how to get it, or you don't get it. It's simple as that. But with that, there's like three outcomes. If you do what you want, or you stand up for what you want, you can get it, you can figure out how to get it, or you don't get it. So I think that was a deeper message for me.
Right, and if you include that in your review, it makes it a lot more meaningful, right?
Yes.
Okay. So let's say you just watched a movie and you know you loved it, but why? Here's a quick look at what makes a movie great. These are some of the things you might find in that deeper image, and here you'll see some of the concepts that Brianna was talking about and the things that you might notice when you're watching a film. Something that promotes self-respect, respect for others, personal competence. We know you're going to look at your production value, like your images, your sounds, your sets, the acting, and that kind of thing. But we have to remember to look deeper into that content as well. At Kids First, we rate and endorse children's media. This is a separate program from our kids' reviews, but it is a good starting point for you. Your review is just that, a review for the general public. It is not a Kids First endorsement, but the basic criteria that we look at in our endorsement program includes many things that will make you a more effective reviewer of films. These concepts will also help you to back up your opinions. So we'll take a look at some of them. One thing that a lot of people are concerned about is media violence. This is a strong factor in deciding what ages a film is appropriate for. Children are highly affected by violent programs, which makes them act aggressively and be less sensitive to violent acts and the suffering of others. Remember that age determines how well you can separate reality from non-reality. We often overlook the put-downs, name-calling, bad language when we think about violence, but if they are overused and unnecessary to the story, they can lead to hurt feelings or bad behavior by viewers. Young kids will often find these concepts scary and uncomfortable to watch. But sometimes violence is part of the story. So we have to know the difference between gratuitous and non-gratuitous violence. First, let's discuss the term gratuitous. Does anyone know what the word gratuitous means?
I don't know. This is Brianna. Like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it, and I'm just like, what does gratuitous mean?
It's a big word, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Not that you don't know a lot of big words, but it's one we don't use very often. So you can see here kind of what it is, but basically it means that it's unnecessary. Sometimes gratuitous violence is hidden in cartoons or animation. To figure out if a program contains gratuitous violence, look at how the characters treat each other. The types of weapons used, what injury or pain is caused, whether or not there are cool villains, whether or not the violence is funny, and how the conflict is resolved. Ask yourself, does the violence help to get across a message, or is it just blood, gore, and guts? If a program contains more violence than you believe necessary to tell the story, then it is gratuitous. Let's discuss non-gratuitous violence before we take questions. Non-gratuitous violence is necessary to the story. However, it's important to think about the audience for this film. Are they too young to understand the violence? Might it be too upsetting for many kids that age?
For gratuitous, so it would be like in a bully play. This is for gratuitous and non-gratuitous.
Sure.
But gratuitous, so like in a bully play, like every scene has someone fighting or shooting. That'd be gratuitous, right?
That would, it would be not gratuitous if it's trying to teach a lesson, but if it's being overused and you feel it has more violence than was needed to tell that story, then it becomes gratuitous. So gratuitous is when it's not necessary. Non-gratuitous is when it contributes to the story.
Okay, and one more question. Not how old, but how old would your mind have to be to separate gratuitous to non-gratuitous? Because if you're like 3, you won't, understand anything. But.
Sure. That's an awesome question, and obviously none of us are child development specialists, so we're not going to have a really precise answer for this age to this age. The other thing we find is that different kids develop at different levels than others. So what we try to do is generalize the ages and say, if most 5-year-olds are going to find this confusing and scary, then it's too old for 5-year-olds. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
There isn't any real black and white kind of answer for that.
Okay.
Okay. Another big problem in children's media is stereotyping and bias. It's a little hard to know the difference between these. Often stereotyping leads to bias. Where a stereotype is your preconceived idea about a person, group, or place, bias is how you treat people or groups because of that idea. In your review, think about how the characters are treating one another. Can you tell me some stereotype characters that you've seen in films?
Would I've heard that word before, but would unstereotype be like, if someone, let's say someone was a bully or whatever, and so you know that they're a bully. Is that what that means?
Stereotype is when you assume something about somebody. So here, let's play a little game. Hang on a second. That leads into this really well. These are sort of the obvious ones. But in media, they use certain physical attributes often. That's the simplest way of doing it, to tell you something quickly about a character. Here's some common stereotype images you might see, and the film is trying to tell you something about these people based on how they look. So I'll put my pointer on. I think. Can you guys see my mouse?
No.
No? Okay. So the first image is of a boy with the book and the glasses, what we think of.
He probably spends a lot of time reading. He spends his time reading. He spends his time studying. He is very smart.
Yeah, and the glasses often make people think that a character with glasses would be smart. That would be a stereotype.
Yes.
And if we treated him differently because of it, you would be treating him with a bias. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, it does.
Okay. And then here's another guy with the thumbs up. And what do you think about him? Or what do they want you to think about him? Do we trust
he's
him?
a rebel, a gangster.
Oh, you're looking at the gangster guy with the black hat?
Yeah.
Yeah. You might think he was scary, or maybe he's violent. And then the image to the left of him, there's a guy with his thumbs up. Does he look like someone you trust?
No, because a salesperson would always do that, and like I've always thought that salespeople try to like trick you. Not all of them, but like some of them try to get you put really really low deals on like if you were trying to sell a car, they'd get you a really low deal, but the car doesn't work or the engine doesn't work or you have to pay for the gas.
So that's a stereotype right there. There's a reason why you think that, because you've come across it before, but as you said, it's not necessarily the case. It's just a stereotype that we have. Okay, so a few other things to watch for are inappropriate sexual behavior, condescension, and replicable, I have a hard time saying that, replicable unsafe behavior. Sexual behavior is determined to be inappropriate based on the age of the viewers and their developmental ability to understand content and put it in a proper context. Now this goes back to what Brianna was talking about before with how do you know what the right age is. Well, you don't just know, you have to, you have to just think it through as far as, when I was this age, would this have made sense to me? Certain sexual behavior, though, like graphic scenes, meant only for adult viewing, is never appropriate in any children's movie. Neither is it appropriate if the scene is demeaning to a specific gender, like either men or women. Condescension is when someone talks down to you or thinks that you can only understand them if you keep things simple. It's when a film is made for elementary-age kids and uses cute baby voices, or tries to teach a concept and assumes they wouldn't already know basic facts. Sometimes you'll see something that's appealing to an older audience because of the age of the main character, but introduces ideas which are much too young for that audience. It might assume the viewer is not smart enough to understand and oversimplifies the content. Replicable unsafe behavior can also be confusing. Some kids may try things they see in a film. Does the film show them something unsafe that they can go home and try? Is the audience the right age to understand what is safe and what isn't? Have you ever seen something on a film that you thought might be cool to try?
Yes, I have.
Yes, you have. And when is it considered replicable? Do you know what that word means?
When you do it, like when you, it's like repeat, kind of.
Replicable means that you can replicate it.
Replicate. I was just about to say that.
You got it. So what it means is that I saw something on the screen and I can go home and do that, like jumping off of a high piece of furniture. You can do that. But that little boy you see flying, is that something you could go home and try to do?
No.
No, and almost any kid of any age, unless they have some other developmental disability, is going to know, I can't fly.
Yeah.
So that's what we mean by replicable unsafe behavior. So does anybody have any questions before I wrap it up?
No, I think I'm all good.
Okay. So we're done for today, but I want to remind you of the 2 other webinars that we have planned to help you find your inner film critic. The first is called Make Your Review Sizzle, where Randy Levy will give you important tips on writing a review that will make people sit up and take notice. Then join us for Looking Good on Camera. Maria Marquez will make you look your best, describing lighting, framing, balance, sound, and more. So remember to enter on October 3rd. The earlier you enter, the more time you have to get votes. Post it on Facebook and Twitter, tell all your friends and family, and visit us at www.kidsfirst.org.